everyone, and welcome to the 5th episode of Happening Now with me, Tim. Much like the pandemic, it feels like it's been both 2 days and 5 years since I started doing this. But thank you for watching. On to the news. We start this week's episode with a look into the Derek Chauvin trial. Chauvin is the police officer that murdered George Floyd last summer, sparking protests of police reform across the US. And yes, I did not say allegedly, because I literally watched a video of him murdering George Floyd. So I don't have to. And although the trial has just started, a lot has been revealed from the time that Chauvin forced his knee onto George Floyd's neck, which was thought to be 8 minutes and 46 seconds long, and it ended up being 9 minutes and 29 seconds long, almost a full minute longer, to witnesses saying that they didn't even see Floyd resist arrest, to one witness who's trained in mixed martial arts testifying that Chauvin used something called a, quote, blood choke on Floyd. But what was most telling about the first few days was the approach by the defense. In their opening statements, they told the jury that Floyd died of heart problems he had prior to the incident, which is just a shockingly bad defense. That'd be like if you hit somebody with your car and then in the court trial you tried to convince the entire jury that they actually had a brain aneurysm the second before your car hit them. I doubt it. Here's why this is such a bad defense. A former federal prosecutor pointed out during a CNN interview that Chauvin's actions did not need to be the entire reason he died, but just had to be a contributing factor to rule a guilty verdict. So, the idea that Chauvin isn't guilty because Floyd had heart problems that could have maybe killed him as a result of the arrest is pretty fucking weak given those heart problems, if they were a factor, was absolutely exacerbated by the blood choke Chauvin was using during the day of Floyd's death. Moving on. It was reported earlier this week that 38-year-old Republican congressman and spawn of a melted bobblehead, Matt Gaetz, was involved in a sexual relationship with a 17-year-old girl. And though a formal investigation has been started by the Justice Department, not much has been revealed. But in an effort to defend himself, Gaetz went on television. Stupid man. And talked to Fox News host and the US's best Piers Morgan impersonator, Tucker Carlson. And after the interview, even Tucker was confused, saying, quote, "If you just saw our Matt Gaetz interview, that was one of the weirdest interviews I've ever conducted." You mean to tell me the network that's literally built for deflecting bad news stories about Republicans was even like, what the f*** is this guy talking about? Fun fact, they have already come out and said that they would never hire Matt Gaetz, which says a lot. Just to give you an idea of what made poor Tucker so confused, here's just some of the things that Gaetz said during the interview. And this is 100% true. So Gaetz said that the whole thing was actually just an extortion attempt for $25 million to make the case against him go away. Which is odd, because his net worth is only $500,000, so I'm not sure where they thought he was going to come up with the other $24.5 million. He also said they told him that they have connections to President Biden, who promised to pardon him. Which is also odd to think that a Democratic president would pardon a Republican representative accused of statutory rape. And then he finally wrapped up everything by saying that Democrats, you know, the ones that promised him a pardon, were also trying to sabotage him, specifically pointing out California Representative Ted Lieu, who, after hearing about the allegations, called on the House to remove Gaetz from the House Judiciary Committee. You know, like the normal reaction to hearing one of the members of Congress might be a pedophile. My favorite part of the whole interview was when Gaetz told Tucker that the FBI tried to intimidate him and a woman he was with directly after a dinner with Carlson. To which Tucker responded with, quote, "I don't remember the woman you're speaking of, or the context at all, honestly. Just beautiful." And now, for a little Tim Time break.
I can say that actually you and I went to dinner about 2 years ago. Your wife was there, and I brought a friend of mine, you'll remember her, and she was actually threatened by the FBI, providing for flights and hotel rooms for people that you're dating who are of legal age is not a crime. And I'm just troubled that the lack of any sort of legitimate investigation into me would then would then convert into this extortion attempt.
I don't remember the woman you're speaking of or the context at all, honestly.
So dumb. Finally, our last super exciting story, President Biden's infrastructure plan. Woo! Okay, so not super exciting, but it is important because this plan can allow us to overcome a lot of the problems we have in this country long term. So, I'll be going through what it is as briefly as I can, what people think about it on both sides, and when/if it might get passed. So, the infrastructure plan that the Biden administration is introducing is a huge $2 trillion plan that is directly aimed at helping the middle class workers in the US. This plan includes investments into manufacturing, research and development, climate and transportation infrastructure, as well as targets childcare, paid family leave, healthcare, and education. It's something that Biden hopes will start to level out the playing field for middle class workers in the US. Now, there are some people on both sides that have problems with this plan. Most Republicans in the House and Senate saw the part where this plan gets paid for by higher corporate tax rates and probably stopped reading there. Normally, I would use right now to give them a hard time about never wanting to help anybody, but it's honestly just nice to hear that they're finally complaining about something that's actually a core value to them, like taxation, and not how a person's body should look or be used. It is depressingly refreshing. And progressives like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez believe that this is not doing nearly enough to help the middle class in the US. Ocasio-Cortez, via Twitter, pointed out that some are missing the context that this plan is spent over the course of 10 years. The recently passed American Rescue Plan that was similar in cost was for the next year or two. Basically, the argument is that he is simply not going big enough to achieve his huge goal of leveling out the playing field here in the US. So that brings us to, how likely is this to get passed through Congress and be signed into law? Always annoyingly unlikely, at first. There will be many alterations made to this bill in the House and in the Senate, but there is still a chance that this could be passed by a simple majority using the same method that they used to get the American Rescue Plan through. However, it's still going to be really difficult, and that's something that we all need to acknowledge. Even though Biden is telling everybody that it's going to pass this summer, it has a lot of hurdles it has to jump through before getting through Congress and getting back to his desk to be signed into law. So, moving forward, we're just going to have to wait and see how everybody likes to play in Congress. And that's our show for this week. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're enjoying watching these. I am living a dream and making them. It's just been so fun and shockingly less depressing than you would think. But thank you again for everybody that watches. It means a lot to get your support. And I'll see you next week. Thank you so much. Toodles!